Hello, everyone. How you doing tonight? And welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider. I've got to fix some names real quick on the stream. I just noticed that.
Who am I?
Dink dink. You were Tyler. So
Oh, I
big
get that a lot.
big apologies.
It's
Big
okay.
apologies there for that one. Let's see here. Got that.
I get that a lot.
Matt Wojo. Just
Don't.
go with that there. Here we go. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone who has joined us tonight. A little bit lighter in the crowd. Not to be surprised with where we are at in the season, but have got the social going out on Twitter. Have a social coming out on Discord right now. So if you would be so kind, please do like and retweet and share all that there for those of you who are here with us.
Recording in progress.
There we go. The recording is in progress. Let's see here. Shout out to anyone who forgot to swap Thomas to Fry. Oh yes, no, that was.
Oh, sorry guys. I blame myself.
We can touch on that. That was, but if it was even needed for some of us. So let's see here. I got that social there, and then I gotta get the. Let me get the Discord real quick because I got the announcement, and then get it in live because. Let's see here. Hey, everyone. And there it goes, the ping ping. All right, excellent. There we go. So yes, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, it's near the end of the season, but still happy to have you join us. We come to you live pretty much every Monday talking about the official MLS fantasy game, especially on weeks like this when it's a double game week and games are going to be starting quicker. So that'll be a big focus of the show. But we are so happy to have you and look forward to discussing the round. This is a good one. I'm enjoying it. And of course, happy to have everyone who is here with us tonight as well. So looks like everything's out there. Again, the social. So please retweet if you can. Share it. Let everyone know about our fun little fantasy project here. And we will get started. Hello and welcome to the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 27 of the 2024 MLS Fantasy season. This episode is brought to you by the return of Messi. Wait. No, actually brought to you by the amazing MLS Fantasy Insider Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to keep this project going. Find out more over at our Patreon at patreon.com/MLSFI. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our special guest, number 2 overall player and member of the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community, Matt Wojo. What's going on, man?
Hey, how are you?
Very good. Happy to have you join. Was trying to get Matt sorted out for last week and had a little flub with my communication and almost did it this week as well as I thought I had confirmed. And he was like, "No, I was already planning." I was like, "Oh, bless you." But yeah, super excited to have Matt here, especially with how well he's doing this year, and so we look forward to
all luck.
Hey, you share it. Share the luck. Share the luck right here. A quick update for me. I'm sorry that I missed some deadlines. Last week it's been super crazy at work. I've got a colleague who is out, and so I've been covering there. Haven't had as much time. And then, as I kind of mentioned in chat, we ended up having to go to the urgent care last week on game day, so wasn't able to get as much stuff out this week. Everything's fine. It's all good. Thanks for some of the messages. It's all good. Just the normal things of parenthood and adulting that had to get taken care of. So apologize for not getting everything out as promptly. But fortunately, it is rare and far between when these things happen. So I appreciate everyone understanding like that. But we did get some stuff out with hope you saw some of the notifications that happened as the games were starting because guys, we had some people return who we weren't really sure were going to return, and it had a lot of impact on this round. So let's start with you, Matt. Just how did you do this week? If you're here with us in chat, let me know how you did this round as well. But just how did you do, and what were some of your main takeaways from round 26?
Yeah. Is it possible to get 122 points and be disappointed that you only got 122 points. I know that's pretty high for a single game week. But I made a couple of rookie mistakes, I guess you'd call them. So I had 122 for the week. Overall, 2 Champions League 17. So overall, I mean, I obviously can't complain too much. But you always kind of expect yourself to do a little bit better. I got pweeged this week, or pooged this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't see it coming. I mean, I should have probably. I've kind of been taking the strategy of going with home players every week, really. And I know there was some discussion in the Discord. I want to say it was towards the end of last week about our home players really getting that big an advantage over away players, because it just feels like so many away players are kind of getting they're just hitting. And so there's some discussion on whether it's the opponent, whether it's the home versus away. So I kind of went away from that. Evander is usually pretty solid when it comes to even the away scores, and I just went with him. I don't know, it was kind of a last minute gut, which I don't usually. This season I've been pretty good about the tinkering, but I tinkered and Pooj let me have it. And so it could have been a lot better. I also, Reed, you mentioned the Andrew Thomas deal. I was out in the yard playing with my kids on Sunday and just completely spaced on kickoff. By the time it was like 7:30 when I came in, and I was like 7:30 Eastern, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not getting those 7 points. And of course Fry keeps a clean sheet, right? I thought Kansas City was going to score, but it didn't happen, and it's life. So that was how my week went. But again, I can't complain with the overall. I was able to keep still a little bit of a cushion at 2. So again, no complaints. But as far as takeaways, the big one that I kind of took away just from the last couple weeks really is that at this point in the season, there's these clear and obvious teams that are just bullying other teams. They're so good, and I don't know. It feels different this season. Like there's probably 5 or 6 teams that are just dominating. It feels like, and you could tell who they are. They're the Columbus, the LAFC, normally the Galaxy, Miami, obviously, and I'll even put Cincinnati in there. They're still playing really well. So there's those few teams that I just keep going back to picking players because they're just dominating their game and winning. And then there's the ones that are getting bullied. It's just some really bad teams. Mainly the defensive side of the ball, but you have Montreal, New England, San Jose, even Sporting usually, Sporting Kansas City. They're just giving up goals left. Portland has been giving up goals home and away, left and right, and those are just the ones I'm hitting every time. I'm taking players against them. And so we're at that point in the season where you can kind of start. I mean, we've been able to do that, but by now you got to know who those teams are and just hit those players on either side of it. And then Atlanta is on one of that bad side. I'll speak to them because that's my team, but they're bad. They know it. The coaches know it. The players know it. So I don't foresee much from them for the rest of the season. I always say I'm a little bit hard to read that team because I'm so close to them and just watching them a lot. But man, I knew they were losing to Nashville this past weekend. I knew it. Nashville's a bogey team for them, and sure enough, they came into the Benz and took them down 2-0, and hopefully it'll get right for Nashville. I know you guys are going to talk about them a little bit, but so I won't go into that. But I'd pick against Atlanta if you can, at least attackers, if nothing else. Galaxy attack looks incredible right now. They're fun to watch. They got some great players. I'm going to be hammering them for the rest of the season if I can. I mean, y'all saw El Trafico and what happened with that, and that's just like I was not expecting that out of LAFC defense. They got slammed, and good on Galaxy for doing it. And then I've been paying a lot of attention to Houston. I made jokes a couple seasons ago about them just being terrible, and Ben Olsen he's done some work, and they're gonna make some people unhappy in the playoffs. I have a feeling they got a good team. They don't score quite enough goals, but they're tough to break down. They have some good players. I think they're just gonna make some people cry in the playoffs, I think. So those are my takeaways, Reed.
Yeah, that's a really interesting comment that you mentioned early on about some of the away team players. I think this has been an interesting stretch to talk about that, because there have been some teams who have just been poor overall in general, and so targeting them regardless of where they are has paid off. I mean, we've been looking at Chicago, we've been looking at San Jose, we've been looking at Austin, we've been looking at lots of teams like that, just being like, pick Toronto, that to just like pick against these teams, and so it's at times not mattered where they were, home or away, but also with a lot of this international absences that have happened, a lot of these other tournaments that have been going on at the same time. Like, we've had people missing, coming back from other cups, and that's impacting the rotation. And so this point of the season particularly, I can see how that would come up and be, I don't know if red herring is the right part of it, or at least just maybe seemingly more, I was going to say relevant or impactful or significant, statistically significant for the results than maybe some conventionally we lean into, of like, it's home. Home is always better, going with that. But this has been an interesting time, so I can see how that came up and was part of the discussion. I still lean more towards favoring the home players in general. What do you take on that, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know that. Like, here's a great example. I have favored Evander more as a player across the season than Mihailovic. So even though Mihailovic was at home, I had Evander in my team this week instead of him. I think there are that turned out to be very wrong by a significant amount. 7 points, I think, 8 points. I think that it still makes sense to always lean home team, but I think that there are players that rule doesn't apply to, if that makes sense. So
sure.
I think it's making it a little harder, especially defensively. I always lean heavily home, but I think that there's some offensive players that just love to score goals in opposing team stadiums, right? Like, I've seen Denis Bouanga score more goals in Seattle this year than Rui Diaz has scored. Now they're very different players, but I think that, I think there's just becoming more and more exceptions to that rule, right?
Yeah.
You see that a lot in the EPL and other, like big leagues. So I think perhaps MLS, we're just kind of catching up to that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, how did your team do? Takeaways.
I am gonna be a big whiny baby with Matt too, and say that I got 118, and I'm like pretty pissed off about it. I will say this is the first time all year that I believe I made the wrong choice as a captain. I can justify basically every captain pick I made, even if it wasn't the best, because you don't always get the highest pointed player on your team the armband, right? But usually you get one of the highest pointed players your armband. I am a sucker. If you've ever heard me talk on this show, I'm a sucker for a derby. I love a derby, and I understand that includes El Trafico, but I love specifically Hell is Real, Cucho Lucho. Those are the two players that I have. Zell Ryan, when he was around too. I love how those players play in that derby. To me, Cucho on the road made sense based on his form, Columbus's form, the decline of Cincy's back line, which Reed has talked about well. All of those things led me towards him. I had Ricky Puig, but I didn't consider him for the armband because El Trafico is usually so split. In his last couple games against LAFC, he's a 5 or a 6 and a 5. So this just wasn't consistent for him. I think the red card helped, but I agree with Matt that the Galaxy just looked firing on all cylinders. I think the changes that they brought in for the summer have really helped. I think when Joveljic is healthy, that really helps them as well. And starting, so 118 isn't something to get upset about. I basically just stayed where I was, but captaining Cucho and knowing that I could have had, an additional, 15 points feels like I made a pretty big mistake. I'm still overall ranked 31. I'm 42 in Champions League, which isn't necessarily where I like to be, but I'm not crying about it. Along with poor captain choices, I got a little too logical with Messi, and I think we've all learned that logic, he defies it. My logic and not captaining him, Reed had captained him. We'd exchanged conversation about it a little bit. I just was worried he was going to get pulled. He'd been out for so long. His injury was relatively significant. I didn't think he would go the full game. I know he doesn't need much time. I had him. I had him on my bench even before they said he was back, just in case they said he was back, and he was. But captaining him just never crossed my mind. So that's a mistake because I think I'm the biggest always Captain Messi person, we have on this podcast. So I didn't even listen to my own advice. Seattle, Orlando, and Vancouver defenses really held up this weekend, which I don't want to say was a surprise, but now that it's a pattern to me, is becoming something that I need to take seriously. I've always been really shaky with Vancouver defense. They've really showed up lately. Orlando defense, I saw a lot of chatter about will they or won't they? Well, they didn't. They kept that shutout. As you should also know if you've ever listened, Seattle defense is one that makes me nervous. I think that is the homer in me. I'm just so aware that they can be a little leaky. They probably should have let in a goal, but they didn't. So great. It's another shutout for Reagan, another goal for Jackson Reagan, which is huge in fantasy. I mean, he's becoming the clear choice for that Seattle defense. Honestly, there's not another player in that backline I'd pick up at this point. The Alex Roldans, the new who's Yamar used to be a big bonus point producer. I'm not looking at them anymore. It's Jackson Reagan for me whenever I'm picking them up. I personally, and again, I love this derby. I felt like El Tráfico got a little topsy-turvy. I feel like the red card definitely threw some things into it. Marco Ruiz's first derby, maybe just his presence had a difference, but it just felt a little off to me, this time. The LAFC players did not point produce. Giroud was just non-existent in that game. It was very interesting. It wasn't what I expected out of an El Tráfico. And then just another couple things is, Colorado is often a team. I think the way Ranch phrases it is, for him, Colorado is a team that he doesn't bet on or against. And that thought makes sense to me. But I think that they're starting, at least at home, to become a team that maybe you can bet on. I think that when Mihalovic is in that team, he, is maybe not a must own, but he's at home. He's definitely a player you need to think about, depending on, what other midfielders are available that week. They looked have looked very consistent recently. And that's something I think that's important to pay attention to because Portland aren't terrible, and I know coming into altitude can make a difference, but he's really been producing at home. And then I don't think this is real, but I want it to be real. I think that Mukhtar might be on his way back, maybe? I don't know. I don't really think so.
It's Atlanta. It's Atlanta.
I think he's going to have a decent slide into the rest of the season. Something's really, really broken down there in Nashville. And even he's not able to work through it. But I'm intrigued going in. We can talk about this more when we get to midfield picks. But I'm intrigued in him this double game week with the matchups he has, knowing that he, was able to produce at Atlanta. Like Matt said, this isn't my, sentiment, but I do agree with him. Atlanta's, kind of hot garbage right now. So I think that they can probably make an okay form player look in form. So I'm a little worried about that trap, but I'm still taking note of the fact that he produced in a way that we're used to him producing, and he hasn't in a while.
So the first thing I'm going to say is Derby, not Darby. Sorry, that was I listened to that. I listened to that the entire time watching the Cincinnati game. People saying Darby, and as a Kentucky guy, it's Derby. It's always going to be Derby for me. But no, I appreciate the takeaways there. The first thing I want to say is that I was shocked. Oh wait, sorry. I got 127 points. That's the first thing I should say. I got 127. I was pretty pleased with that. I had 130, and then there came a 3-point correction today, so that swung me down. I'd cracked into the top 60, and now I'm at 60 overall, just straight up 26th overall in Champions League. So fun times, doing pretty well at the end. Number 2 in the Cincinnati League, so always a bridesmaid, never a bride there. But in general, speaking of Cincinnati, shocked overall by that. I messaged Ashley immediately after it happened, or I messaged our group and she responded. It's like I did not have Hell is Real coming out as 0-0 with this game, but it was absolutely bonkers. I did have Cucho on the field because of the Cincinnati defense, like we had talked about, and Columbus was not shy of getting their opportunities during that game, but Celentano just came up huge. That's really what it came down to, was Celentano came up huge, and a couple things did not fall for Columbus. But I had Acosta on my team, but on the bench, because I too was concerned about him, but wasn't sure what was going to happen with Hell is Real. But they just had Nagby right there marking him, and it pretty much just took him out of the game for the majority of it. So that was a shock, but I hedged my bets. Again, not upset about the Cucho. I mean, I think everything that we saw, that was just a surprise. And they had the opportunity, so nothing crazy for that. There were 2 bits of information that I saw last week that threw me for a loop. One of them was, Matt, a bunch of teams I saw leading into Atlanta as the first part of their keeperoo, and I just didn't have any faith in that from the beginning. I don't have a huge amount of faith in Nashville's attack, but I just on the road with the things that have been happening, I was just like, no, I just don't feel good about that Atlanta. So that was a shocker for me to see so many teams with that, and it ended up kind of how I thought it would. So that was strange. And then also, I was surprised to see Orlando get the clean sheet. When I saw some of the numbers in the Discord closer to game day, and Orlando had like the second best chance of a clean sheet, I sort of took a double take, like, seriously, is this for real? And looked at some of their record, and I just felt like, especially with who the Revs were rolling out at the beginning of that game, like that just seemed like a game that was going to have goals on both sides to me. And so congrats to everyone who had some Orlando clean sheets last week. It was fantastic. But those were 2 of the bigger surprises for me. The one takeaway that I'll take, Ashley, about Nashville is I'm not sure about that attack, but they've got an easier lineup ahead of them coming up, and seeing them keep a clean sheet this round gives me a little bit of hope for maybe what could be coming up, at least in this double game week for them. So I was happy to see the clean sheet that was there, because
it was
that's
Atlanta.
It was well, it wasn't. But we're sneak preview. They're playing Chicago in their first one. So like, I was like, okay. Let's just take a look at this. So we can talk more about Nashville later on, but otherwise, I think you guys got a lot of the main talking points that we had here. A lot of teams. I guess the one other point I will mention about a surprise is a few of us had wondered about. I had closed off my screen real quick. We had talked about Montreal. I had mentioned that maybe Charlotte might have a good chance of a road clean sheet. Montreal found some of its scoring, and I mentioned that the Red Bulls might have had a chance at a road clean sheet, and Chicago got a couple goals on them right there. So definitely a strange round with some of these clean sheets, but it's the way it falls sometimes. And so now we've got a big double game week with some fun defensive picks, to say the least. So we'll definitely be getting into that. Wojo shakes his head. Get into a little bit later. Going to chat real quick. Had some amazing scores in chat. Lots of people in the 120s, some of the high 90s. Eli Redpath coming in 141. Yet I still don't think that was the highest score this round. I think there was a 143 maybe that got the highest.
Eli killed it.
He did.
Eli killed it. He's right on my tail too.
Had a lot of the good picks and some of those Orlando ones. I mean, I went with the Messi captain. Still had Pooch on the team. Had Gald. I guess I will mention this too. I went with Vancouver as the second part of my keeperoo. I started Houston at the front and then went with Vancouver. And honestly, the reason I went with Vancouver was I was like, you know what? It doesn't really matter at this point anyway. Might as well go with Vancouver. They'd kept a couple of clean sheets, and it paid off. So that was good. But yeah, he had a whole bunch of those hits, and so really good results from him right there. So Elson chat, I think this is around. Like I said, I was 59, 60 overall. Went up 2, 3, or 4. I think 2 or 3 ranks overall. So hitting in the 120s is definitely where you need it to be, likely to stay the course, depending on where you're at in the rankings. Probably getting in the 120s is really where you need it to be, because 1 or 2 points definitely meant so much this round. But if you got in the high 90s, I say you had a good round. I'd say you had a good round, especially if you're outside the top 100. I say you definitely had a good round, but the 120s is probably where a lot of the people who are right there in that top cut we're really looking at trying to finish this round. So it was great to see just like a regular round hit so high with some of these things. And I mean, I put the C on Messi right when he came back, so I was like, no question, there it went right there. All right, well, that was not a double game week, but we do have a double game week coming up, and it's a pretty good one, and I'm excited to talk about it. And we'll get into all the housekeeping that goes along with that coming up right after this. Okay, let's see here. See, you guys did so, like, we have them in chat and people are like, I got 90s, I got this. Like, those are still great scores. Like, like this is definitely above. That's one thing I wish, like I said, average competition score, it said 65.3, because we know there's dead teams and stuff in there. But, like, I kind of wish it would break down some of the average scores for the different groupings, like top 100 average score, top 500 average score, kind of that kind of thing. That I think that could be helpful in having people kind of have some context of where they're doing, what's going on. So that would be really fun. It just keeps getting me back to, like, I want there to be a better dashboard, a better home landing dashboard with just some fun little information. Just I would love it. I would love it. So okay, hold on. Let's get. That's right. We'll have a survey coming out, and we'll have another episode where we go over all that goodness real soon. So let's get this. And I fixed Wojo's head some with the screen. Got it a bit more centered, so it's all good. You were like outside of the.
It's too big.
No, it was outside of the frame. I got it all fixed. So with the magic of editing. So let's see here. Okay, we got that there.
Just don't make me a cat, Reed.
No, I won't do that to you.
Do it.
No.
Like that lawyer. I'm not a cat, I promise.
I love that. I love that one. I'm not a cat. Okay, sorry, I was looking at some stuff right there. Okay, let me get the social real quick. Think.
Look at my shit. What did I say?
All right, there we go. Got the social out. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome back to our housekeeping segment going into round 27. Crazy how it flies by. So we're going to skip some of the league recap since we did that last week. People are absolutely killing it. I'm sure Tyler's doing well too. So good job, Tyler, just to make sure that he gets his shout out. What I will mention though, is this is round 27. So if you are in a head-to-head league that has a playoff, like several of the MLS Fantasy Boss network of leagues do have. So if you're in a head-to-head league with a playoff, this is the final round of everyone getting to play. After this round is where teams start getting whittled down for your playoffs. So this is your last chance if you're right there on the bubble. And definitely we have that in our head-to-heads because it's super fun. Well, particularly the MLS Fantasy Insider Experts League has a playoff, and that's always big fun right there. Wojo is right behind me in that one. I think Skylar, I think he won. So I'm several points behind him.
Me.
He beat you? Okay, yeah, so he got some points
me.
there. I think you're 2 games behind me, and I'm a couple of games behind him. So I think we'll be duking it out there at the end. But that's it. Be sure to watch out for that. This is the final round before that happens. Moving into the actual round 27, games start Wednesday, September 18th, and it is a double game week. So we've got Wednesday, Saturday, and a Sunday game this round. So keep an eye on all of that. Games start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our typical Apple TV schedule. We also have games starting on Saturday at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock p.m. So keep an eye on that. That's a little bit odd. And then we have a single game on Sunday, which is the second game for Philadelphia, hosting DC United at 6:15 p.m. So some of the start times for this round after Wednesday are a little unusual, so be sure to keep an eye on that just so you're able to keep up with everything. I mean, a lot of it's double game teams, but just so you can watch if you want to see, keep up with those start times.
I want to point out for Ottawa's, yeah, I mean, DC is probably one of the worst teams to have as this option, but they're a single game week team. So if for some reason you want to make sure you have the ability to turn a scrub into a player, there's them, but I don't even know if I believe that.
So you got 2, that's the conundrum. So first we have double away teams, Miami, Vancouver, FC Cincinnati, and Chicago. Double home teams, New York City FC, Nashville, Sporting Kansas City, and Real Salt Lake. And then a whole bunch of teams who split home and away, and then Seattle, DC, New York Red Bulls, and St. Louis all on a single. And as Ashley was saying, yes, DC is the last team that is playing this round. So that would be a team that you could look at normally for some of your just
a ruse.
Thank you. I had a little just brain right there. That would be a team that you would normally look to for some of your ruse right there. The only other thing that you have to keep in mind, though, is even though they're not statistically eliminated yet, we're getting near the end of the season. DC is very likely not going to make it. The only one out is San Jose. Are they going to have some more rotation? And see what happens. But DC is still a good shot of having some good Aru options for you. You can at least see who isn't even on the 18 for your team to put them in there. If not, you can also get players from the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord going down to our mega reference and find those players who are not in the game anymore at all. So you know that they will not be playing. You just have to have that timed up so that the team doesn't lock, so you can still make a change or not.
Ariel has been my MVP.
He is definitely MVP. Or glad that even though he's not here, he is still valuable to the game. It's good stuff. So that's who is there. Keep an eye on that for setting up your ruse. It's important for a double game week. So as we all know, also important for a double game week to keep an eye on the card suspensions and also people who are on a yellow card warning, because that can ruin your double game week really quick right there. So first, let's go to the yellow card accumulation suspensions. Let's see here. San Jose, not really a big deal to look at. So we have Edwin Cirillo from LA Galaxy, yellow card accumulation. We have Lewis O'Brien from LAFC, who got a red. Yapi from Colorado got a red. Chicho Arango, RSL, yellow card accumulation. That's huge going into this week for him. We have Alex Cretanis, there we go, RSL, yellow card accumulation. Heinz Ike at Austin, yellow card accumulation. DeRussi is a suspension on the yellow card accumulation. Valencia at Austin, yellow card accumulation. There's a theme here that's gonna play into some picks coming up. Shane O'Neill, TFC, yellow card accumulation. Busquets from Miami, yellow card accumulation. Jack Elliott from Philly, yellow card accumulation. And Lucas Bartlett, DCU, yellow card accumulation. So a lot of suspensions right there for some teams that definitely will have an impact on who I think you'll want to target going into the double game week. Some of the big names, though, who are on a double game week yellow card watch. We have Evander. We have Lennon. We have Santi Rodriguez. We have Wagner. We have Brian White as well. So those are some of the key players that may be getting targeted that you'll want to keep an eye on. And then, of course, some injuries to keep an eye on. David Martinez from Miami had an abductor strain. Hector Herrera has had a groin injury. And then Silva at Atlanta has also had an injury. Do you know what that one is, Wojo? Andy Silva?
I want to say it was the leg, somewhere in his leg. That's the last I heard about it, though.
Didn't have that one listed. Let's see here. And that's who we have. So it's those card warnings and the accumulations really impacting this round. So make sure that you either have plans for your team with switcheroo options off your bench, or you're just willing to roll the dice and that you are happy that that first game at least is going to give you enough points before we move on, because that can be so impactful for a double game week that you guys know it. We've been through it, but it's just got to say it because it's a big deal. It's absolutely a big deal. Anything else you guys want to add before we move on to talking about the players?
No.
All right. Well, we are going to jump into who we actually think you should target, or at least consider, going into this round 27 double game week coming up right after this. Let's see here. What are you talking about, Ashley?
What was I talking about?
I see you're talking in chat over here.
Oh, someone was trying to talk to me about Rui Diaz, and I was not paying attention.
Gotcha.
He is being a real shithead, by the way. He won't wear, we were talking about it this week, he won't wear Sounders stuff when he's on the bench or on the sidelines. He wears his black under jersey thing and nothing else. Yeah, he won't put on the jacket, a jersey.
That's weird.
He's being a real douche.
Hey, brother in chat, thank you for the shout out. Really appreciate it. Shouting out South Bronx himself. Gene's not here. He's usually our New York representation in chat, but appreciate it. Gene's here. Gene is here.
Gene is here.
Where?
Scroll.
Oh, I see. Apologies. I missed the comments early on. He didn't talk. Okay. 107. I'm sorry, Gene. I'm sorry. I got the recording starting early enough. He didn't have to tell me. So
I think I am.
You are. Well, there you are. You're here. There we go. So we got double the New York with us tonight. So fun times. All right, that was a bit. Let me get this social out. But I still appreciate the shout out. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Over here and go back here. Dink. Dunk. Post. And back to that. And there we go. The final social of the night. So there we go. Are any of us really here? Oh my gosh. We just turned into
There we go.
Something crazy. Anyway, let's get back to soccer. Hello and welcome back to our final segment, our player targets going into round 27's big double game week, starting as always with keepers and defenders. Matt, who do you like?
I like, just keepers and defenders have been such a challenge this year. It's been quite interesting, and it's honestly for me. I know I've had difficulty choosing every week. Every week's just had shoots on clean sheets, and with the lack of bonus points, it just takes a little bit of the emphasis off the defenders and goalkeepers for me. But one group that has really stood out to me, especially lately, is the Columbus defense. They're, obviously one of the best teams in the league, and Reed, you were talking about, the Derby last week and the 0-0. I mean, I don't think anybody saw them going into because Cincinnati was missing defenders. You were expecting maybe Cucho to do something.
Yeah.
But the fact that they went in there and shut them out, with Lucho and some of the other firepower that Cincinnati has, I think and if you just look at their overall totals, like they're just one of the best defensive teams in the East, if not the league. And so I'm going to go Schulte as as my first keeper off the bench. And then I'll probably stack him with a defender, whoever looks like it's going to start both games. I'll look at the lineups, but maybe Morera is usually one of my favorites. But, if Farsi plays, he's always good for some KPs. And Camacho, I think Camacho is who I have in my lineup right now, but ultimately that could end up being any of them based on the lineups. But I will be stacking Columbus. I know they're away the first one at Toronto, but I'm just not scared for their defense. They're so organized, and Nancy has them playing so good that it's they're just strong. And so I think when you have limited options like we do every week, that you just need to go with some of either a super strong matchup or a super strong team. And that's who I'm going to start out with as my keeper. And then I'm going to roll that into Lloris, who I'm not a fan of in general because he just was a Spurs player. But ultimately, that's neither here nor there for this conversation. I don't fancy him as a keeper in general. But with the people missing for Austin the first game, and then I feel like they have something to prove. I feel like LAFC has something to prove coming off that El Trafico, and I'm hoping they do. And so they've got two decent matchups. Dallas is not exactly beating down the door either. So I think for my fallback, I'll use Lloris. I'll use Long probably. Just depends on what I need going into those late games. We were talking about the switcheroos. I see who I like the earlier games instead of seeing who plays my double games and then seeing if I need a single game fallback. I'll do check the first matchups of somebody off the bench, if that makes sense. And then if they bomb and I don't like their second matchup, I'll go ahead and do my switcheroo at the 10 o'clock games, Eastern games. And so I'll have LAFC as my fallbacks. It's really hard picking some of the other ones. Messi's buddy, Alba, will be in my lineup, I'm sure. That they're just rolling so hard right now that I don't expect clean sheet from him, but anything else from that is gravy. But they're scoring so many goals, and they just have that connection when they're playing. It's incredible. And he's still got it. I mean, surprisingly enough for his age, he's playing every game. He's, scoring well. So we'll keep him in there. And then I think right now I do have Wagner in the lineup, but between Philly's defense, if they're going to play an 18-year-old keeper, and then his yellow card watch, I don't know if he'll stay, honestly. I do like the opponents from an attacking standpoint pretty well, but he hasn't been lighting it up there either. So we'll see. My other options are maybe somebody like Dorsey, who's been scoring really well, or Gallagher from Austin, if he's playing. I haven't checked if he's one of the ones missing or not, but I know just offensive fullbacks, score some goals, maybe get lucky on a clean sheet or something like that. I know you guys have, let's see, Reed, you guys are going to talk about them, some of the Nashville players. I'm just going to throw this out there at the beginning. Normally in a double game week, I would go for double home players, but the double home teams are it's just not a great selection.
Yeah, not doing
it's normally Nashville would be, I'd be tripling up on them, but they've just been so bad. And then NYFC, NYCFC doesn't appeal, FKC doesn't appeal, RSL maybe a little bit, but from a defensive standpoint, they've been garbage too, really. So that's normally the approach I would take, is to take a couple home defenders. But we are where we are as far as the quality of those choices. So I'm looking for individual matchups that I can key in on. And like I said, if it's the first matchup, I'll put them on the bench, see how that goes, and then anything they get past that clean sheet is gravy. That's just my approach to it. So we'll see how that goes.
Ashley.
Yeah, I have the same keeper setup right now with the same hesitancy issues, if I'm being completely honest, as Wojo does. I'm currently set up for Schulte to Lloris. LAFC defense has not produced for me. I would have to honestly go back and look, but I don't think once. I think almost every time. I've still gotten some bonus points, but that's not to say that they're not a producing defense. It's just whenever I go that route, it doesn't hit. So I'm hoping to not have to use it. I also have Jordi Alba. He was kind of a lock for me. I agree. He might not get a shutout in both those matchups, but he's producing so well offensively. He doesn't look like he's going to get rotated. I know he has before, but it's not something I'm particularly worried about right now. I'm actually not looking at Wagner, sorry, this round, even though I think the matchups are okay. I don't think Philly is in a normal condition. I don't think he is in normal condition. He really does worry me for a yellow card watch. Like, he's a player that if he was on yellow card watch on a double, I'd want to put him on my bench. But the way that I prefer to play a double game week is 3 defender. I start all 5 defenders and 2 of them are scrubs. That's how I prefer to line up. So I can't bench him in that. I have to kind of change how I like to do it. And I don't know if I want to do that. So right now he's not in my lineup. I do have Walker Zimmerman, who I'm equally reserved about. Again, like I said earlier, I think I'm getting hoodwinked by Nashville here. I like Walker. He is, occasionally produced this year, but their home form isn't, like dominating home form. So he might get swapped out, but the other 2 defenses I like. Again, I'm only going to run 3 actual defenders, 2 scrubs. The other defense I like are Columbus and Houston. I tend to do Morera, but I agree with what Matt said about Farsi and Camacho. That's just who I usually put in when I go for them. And then for Houston, their defense has just been relatively consistent. And, I know that I wouldn't say that their matchups are fantastic, but I also wouldn't say that they're bad. And for them to have a home game, I've liked Mikel most of the season. I've thrown him in on weeks that probably didn't make sense. So kind of just batting those 2 things around. So for me, the only lock right now is my goalkeepers, who, again, I'm not like in love with that, and Jordi Alba.
Yeah, similar picks. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say about Zimmerman real quick.
That's too. I could tell he's not gonna let it go.
Well, he's obviously a goal threat as well, which I think is huge. And ultimately, the Cincinnati matchup isn't the best for them, but ultimately you kind of want him for that first Chicago matchup anyway. So if you're not running the 5 at the back like you do, having him as a bench play, especially just to see that first game, because there's so many later games that you can pivot to an LAFC player afterwards, he's not a bad pick. And it may end up be a direction that I go if I don't go with Wagner. I don't, it's a possibility. I just know Chicago's just been scoring more lately, and so it makes me a little nervous, like you said, with the outcome. But with the Nashville, you kind of flatter to deceive. Is that what they say?
Yeah.
And so, but otherwise, normally I'd be all over that. Especially as a bench play, it's solid.
So I have similar thoughts that you guys have shared. I think Lloris is the chalk second half of the Keeperoo, and that is absolutely because of who Austin is missing right there. LAFC has struggled at times to be a defensive powerhouse that we might have wanted them to be. Some inconsistencies there, but Austin missing so many key pieces. I think this is who you're going to be having. The Seattle's on a single. That's not going to be there. Portland and LA have been even less consistent or equally as inconsistent as that. So I think that's going to be the chalk second part of the keeper. On the front end, yeah, Schulte, Houston, I think are two people you could absolutely consider. Perhaps Orlando could be in the talking for the front half of that keeperoo. They've been on a nice clean sheet run going up against Charlotte, who has not always been a goal scoring powerhouse right there. Now Orlando's second game when they're on the road to Columbus is not as appealing at all. But really, if we're talking about this, you're hoping to get that early clean sheet, and you're going to go from there. After that, it becomes a huge toss-up. Equally, no faith in Atlanta for a clean sheet with Miami. Even they're on the road, nothing there. Really don't know what to expect with New England and Montreal. Montreal has struggled with goals. New England has kept some clean sheets, but just the results that came from last week, these two teams are far too unpredictable for me to want to take a bet on right there. And then again, same thing with Minnesota and Cincinnati. I'm not gonna hang my hat on Cincinnati getting clean sheets or even Minnesota getting clean sheets, so that I see that as goals both ways. And as we start getting into these 8:30 games, it just gets real tight for your keeperoos. So if you're not finding someone in these 7:30 to 8:15 games right here, it's going to get real tight as it gets to those 10:30 games. So I'm pretty much tracking the same teams you guys are. And when it comes to defense, again, yeah, I like matching up those players right there. Alba is for the attacking threat, and then that's about the only name there. I will say I've not been huge on Gressel this year. I think it's been easy to see that when Messi is in, Gressel has just not been getting a lot of production. When Messi was out, Gressel was getting more up there, getting more involved, had a nice little run. But as Messi is back now, I don't expect to lean on Gressel, and I've only had him a couple times, so he's not on the radar for me. It's Alba for that spot, and that's absolutely it. Other than that, I like Houston, I like Columbus. LAFC would be that bench. For me, I think you could have a lineup where you have two starting defenders and one scrub, and then your other two defenders are on the bench. And so you're just picking whoever you have right there, because this could just be a very light defender week for you, and then you're just throwing everything else into that attack. Perhaps you're having your one other scrub who's there to see if you want to go with a midfielder or a forward for that spot, and that's really what you're using it for this round. That's probably how I'll set up, because I am really drawing. I'm going to wait until we get closer to Wednesday when some more of the odds come out to start sort of seeing what those chances look like. But if I had to pick 5 teams, I think I'd be going with Miami, Houston, Columbus, LAFC, Orlando, and Nashville is definitely one that I'm thinking about, and it's because they coming off of that good game last week. I know it was against Atlanta. Atlanta still got 10, 12 shots, though, at goal that they were able to not allow in. And they're starting the game against Chicago. Chicago got a couple of goals last week, so maybe that's more of a threat for people than they're willing to risk it on. But then they're going up against Cincinnati, who has been able to get some attack, but if they're able to shut down Lucho, or if he's not going to be fully fit because he went everything that he had against Hell is Real, then we'll see. But it's a toss-up. Nashville, for me, would be an absolute 100% bench play. It's what they would have to be this round because they've been inconsistent. But I think that could be a team that you roll the dice on. Could be kind of fun. See where that goes right there. And you mentioned RSL at one point earlier. I could see that also being a bench play. I don't rate Dallas very high with their attack, and Portland's kind of inconsistent when they're on the road. So that could be a sneaky one as well that you could get in there and just see what goes on. But yeah, this is one where I think going light on defense with your team is probably going to be the strategy that I'm looking at. Chat real quick. General thoughts here. We got someone talking about Kalina as potentially the first half of a keeperoo, and that's sort of the opposite of what I was just saying right there with Orlando. I think that's kind of risky. I think it's kind of risky. Just kind of like going with Freese on the front half as well, as I'm just not confident in New York City being able to keep clean sheets, because I mean Union have some players who can still score. They're not on watches or away, so there's still some attacking power right there. And then they have Miami the next round, so I think Philadelphia is just enough of a threat to make me shy away from New York City.
Agreed.
All right, well then, since we're all in agreement, let's move on to midfielders. Ashley, who do you have?
This one has been very back and forth for me. Ricky Puig and Reese were right into my lineup. I'm always hesitant to double, but it felt necessary. And then I also really want a Vander, but he's also someone that I worry about for yellow card watch. So I think he'll be on my bench, but I think that I'll still have him. And he didn't burn me 5 points is 5 points, but I went him over Mihal. So normally I wouldn't pick him up this week, but I like the matchups. And that Portland needs the points this close to the end of this season. So I expect something from him. I am gonna go with Mihalovic. He's someone that I think I'll probably start with their matchups, and then that fifth midfield spot. Gosh, I just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between Heel, Gald on the road. Do I bring Gazdeg's name out of borderline retirement for my teams? Honestly, I know this kind of sounds crazy. I don't hate Lucho Acosta this week as a bench midfielder. Just because of how like I said, how I set my team up for double game weeks. I'm gonna have a midfielder or two on my bench, and so I don't hate his matchups, but it's been so hard to know what is going on with Cincinnati, and I'm consistently talk to one of their fans about them every week, and I still don't know what to think. So I know that one's kind of a flyer, and the other ones are not. I think Bogusz would be a good fifth as well. So it's just kind of trying to figure out where I want to hedge my bets.
Matt.
I also Vander was the first one I did put in my team. There's a good chance that I'll risk it. In that first matchup, I mean Portland has a good matchup, or a good two good matchups, I think. I mean LA Galaxy can be scored on, especially away from home. RSL's given up. They've just been really inconsistent defensively. So and this may be unwise, but I often will risk that. And I think I risked him last time he was on a yellow card watch, and I think I got burned. But
yeah,
but I don't know. Let's do it again, Evander. Let's do it again. Let's roll it. And I will not get Puig this week for sure. He's just like incredible form. His last few games have just been incredible, and their matchup as well. Their matchups are just I don't know. I'm loading up. Vancouver, but Vancouver's at home. I think it's just whether or not you believe Vancouver is for real with that defense. They have been doing well the last couple games, but I'm not betting against the Galaxy, at least on offense. So right now I have Royce in there as well, doubled up on midfielders. I don't usually do that either, Ashley, for probably the same reasons you don't. But like I said, that gives me that third Galaxy attacker in there, and I wonder if they'll do any rotating. I haven't heard anything, so don't quote me on that, but I just wonder if they have like Fagundes on the bench and a few others that they might rotate through that. So we'll see. We'll see if Roy stays in there. Mihailovic, I do have as well. Again with the form, He's just on a roll, playing two fairly weaker defenses. I'm gonna keep him rolling. And then the fifth one I have for right now is Carlos Heel. And I do have him on my bench, and that's because I really, really want to see that Montreal game. I want to see. I know he scored against them a few weeks ago in Montreal, so that's the one that I really want to see from him. I'm not so worried about the second game. It's one of those ones that anything you get past Montreal is gravy. So that's why I have him on my bench, and so that way, if he blows that one, I can pivot at that point. But like Ashley, I have Gazdag in my thoughts. He bailed on last double week. It was awful. I think he had like 6 points, but usually he'll come good at least one of the games, and it's usually pretty big. And so while I don't trust Philly's defense, their offense has been actually scoring, and so he's got two very reasonable matchups. Bogusz is another one. He hasn't done as well with Giroux in there. I think he's getting pushed back to midfield a little bit more, but he's still scoring at times. And with decent matchups, he's a decent player. And then you mentioned Gald, and we've been talking about home versus away, but Gald is one of those, like, his away games are they're insane. It's crazy to me. I don't know if he plays better on the counter or what the case is, but I can't not think about it. It's probably less likely for me. But I mean, I don't like Santi on the yellow card watch for some of the double game week guys. Mukhtar, I don't know how I feel about him. I'm not convinced that the Atlanta show was. Again, we've talked about this. I don't know how I feel about him. So those are the five that I'll stick with for now. And like I said, we'll see about the double up on Galaxy players.
So I don't have the double up myself, but yeah, a lot of the same players on the list. I definitely wanted Bogusz because of that Austin team, and so I wanted to get. He was one of the first LAFC attackers that I put in. I'd be more willing to not go with an LAFC forward, since that's been a bit more inconsistent, I think, with some of their options. And Bogusz has just got the bonuses there at midfield, and so he was one that I threw in there. Pooch I put in there as well, because he's just been on an amazing form as well. Love Evander and what he does for Portland right there. After that, it starts to really start to fan out, just like what you guys were talking about. Gald's great. Jordy's great. I thought hard about Gazdag, but he's not been on a great run of form, and that's what I fear, is that they can get goals against New York City. They can get goals against DC. This may be where he kind of bounces back. He would, I think, have to be a bench play, because he's not been as consistent as we would want to see him this round. I mean, looking at some of the other players that we haven't mentioned yet, Torres over with Orlando could be one to ride some form with right there. I thought about Heel as well. Didn't do as well last week when they got shut out, but Heel's had a bit of a resurgence over these past few rounds as well that I think could be good. If you think this is when Cincinnati is going to start dropping points, then you could look over at Minnesota. I mean, Laud's been doing well over there with some of his scoring, but Minnesota's playing Cincinnati, then they're on the road playing against Sporting Kansas City, which have been struggling still, so there could be some options there with Minnesota if you wanted to go that direction. After that, it kind of dries up for me. I don't like Mukhtar either. He's just been too inconsistent. Same thing with a lot of the other teams that they just share. New York Red Bulls are missing some players. Columbus is, you want their forwards. They don't really have consistent midfielders. Montreal's not been consistent. Charlotte's not been consistent. So there's a lot of, Atlanta's not been consistent. I would love for Hector Herrera to not be injured, because I feel like this was when we would want Hector Herrera to come back, as he's just been getting so many bonus points, and this would have been a great round, I think, for them. I don't know if I like Bossy as much to fill in that spot. I think he's more production needed. It's just necessary for him to get that production. But I think there's a lot of good options there that you could talk through when you're deciding who you want to have for your team. I'm still in flux with how I'm going to have the team right now. I'm on Bogusz, Pooch, Evander, Jordy, and Gald, and I'll see where I end up with on Wednesday when everything gets finalized. I wish I could have 2 defenders this week. That's really what it comes down to. So I could get all the attackers.
Wish that every.
Well, not every. There's some good ones this time, but I don't know if doubling up on LA Galaxy is better than some of the other teams that I want for some of their options. So I think I like a lot of these teams here.
Hey Reed, let me throw this little bit out. One of the reasons that I doubled up on that, as opposed to going with someone like Haney or Santi or something like that, is the just the level of attack on New York City and Nashville. They're just, I consider them like low ceiling teams. Like they just don't they don't put up multiple goals a game often. It's like it's not out of the question, obviously, but I tend to look for some players with a little more of a ceiling, and I just think because of the attacks that they're in and and I mean honestly, Nashville has had one of the weaker attacks, especially lately. And if you're looking at kind of equal quality players, because like let's be honest, Mukhtar is a quality player. He's won, I think, didn't he win an MVP or came close to it, right?
Oh, yeah, he did.
So, you're obviously looking at a quality player, so you have to have some of these key points that you're to either take somebody out or put them in your lineup, right? These differentiators that you're looking for to try to weed people out so you can actually set your lineup. And that's just one of the ones that I use, is how potent is that attack, and as compared to some of the others. So that's just one of the reasons I was just like, man, LA Galaxy attack right now is firing on all cylinders. And I mean, I hope for Nashville's sake that they do turn that around, because it'd be nice for them, especially having such a good schedule this week. But
yeah, no, that makes sense. We had a stat shared in chat right now that's talking about Mukhtar, saying that over his last 4 games, he has had a lot of key passes, and that he's had 22, 12, 15, and 9 in his last 4 games, and that's why he might be on the radar. What I will also throw out there is, yes, he said 22, 12, 15, and 9, and over those 4 games, Nashville has scored 3 goals. 2 of them being last week against Austin. So it's not been connecting with anyone, not been a lot of production there. Now, he's got some decent points. That's good. Key passes are absolutely good. But you're getting 22 key passes and still draw 1-1 against New England. You get 9 key passes and got 2 goals against Atlanta. It's like I get why you might look at Mukhtar. For me, it's just not been consistent in the output for that. And what this stat shows for me is that it's not just him, but also a lot of the people around him aren't able to be consistent with the service he can provide. And that's been a big hindrance for him this year as well for being that. But a great stat. I appreciate you throwing out, because I hadn't broken that down either in their last 4 games. This includes a 0-2 loss to Austin as well. Womp womp. All right, let's move on and start talking about forwards. Matt, who do you like?
Well, it's going to be interesting what that Miami lineup looks like midweek, isn't it? Atlanta with the turf, seeing who they put out, whether Messi's ready for that double game week. I mean, obviously, if he's in there, guys, don't overthink it. Actually, don't overthink it.
I won't.
Right? I mean, I just don't see any other option. If he starts, he's in my lineup. He's got to see. It's just ridiculous. You knew he's a great player, but you never know. Like when they come to MLS, are they going to try? What's going to happen? And he's just been just about everything you'd expect from a fantasy perspective. And
I will
so,
say
go ahead. Yeah.
he's done every, what I would say, big stadium, right? Like the big games that they've marketed.
Mm-hmm.
He's done all of them except for Vancouver, which everybody didn't come to, right? And Vancouver's turf, but they sold out the whole thing. They don't usually open it up, but it was like Suarez, Busquets, and him didn't travel, and I believe it was a double game week. So I'm inclined to think, just based if you look at when he did and when he didn't, um, he should go, but maybe he doesn't start but he's always been so vocal about he doesn't care about turf, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I think I'm more worried about the fact that he just came back from injury, just played. I mean, I don't know. I don't know his minutes from last game. I can look it up real quick.
What, the whole game?
He played the whole game. Yeah, he played the whole game. So he just played 90, playing a midweek, and then has another game, on the weekend. I would not expect 180 from him, obviously, this week. But maybe, is 100, 120 enough for that captaincy? Probably with him. So it's going to be interesting to see I mean, it's one of the first lineups, so thankfully we'll know pretty quick. But I mean, obviously he's in my lineup. I actually, Cucho is another one. He's just got a good schedule this week. He's kind of taken. I wonder if the amount of games or the internationals have kind of thrown him out of rhythm a little bit, or maybe they just had some rough matchups. But I think this week they can come good. Orlando normally their defense has been pretty rough this year up until lately, so we'll see. But Cucho's going to be pretty chalky. And then my third one is actually Peck from LA. I'm loading up on him. He's actually been very consistent. He's an exciting player to watch. I'm really glad to see players like that, even if they're on other teams. I'm jealous that he's not in Atlanta, but he'd be in a dumpster fire right now. So maybe it's better. But it's fun to watch players like that play, just as a general fan of the game. And so he's my third one. Obviously, Suarez is an option, just depending on if he gets minutes. And I kind of like I like Portland's schedule. So Rodriguez is a solid choice if you kind of want to go with a differential. And then it's sad that Chicho is out for the first game, because RSL's schedule is pretty nice too. So, if anybody's looking for differentials in the midfield or the attack, RSL has a nice little schedule too. If you're into that kind of thing.
Ashley,
you like scoring points?
I mean, I'm Team Messi. I also worry about how the Atlanta of it is going to play. Just coming back from injury, he went the whole game. What do we do? How do we look at that? NYC. Let me look at that. Is that on the baseball field?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love that either. We'll see. If he's starting on Wednesday, I agree with Matt. He's in my team and he's my captain probably. I'm gonna go back to Cucho. I'm gonna forgive him. I'm gonna, realize that he's playing Toronto and Orlando at home, and I'm gonna definitely, keep him on my team. And then I love the Peck shout. I've always been more of a Joveljic girl myself, but I definitely with Peck. But I think it's no surprise, and maybe it's not the right call, but Denis Bouanga on a double game week. That's my dude, right? At home against Austin, and then going to Dallas, who's not doing great. I agree with what Matt said earlier, that I think they'll have something to prove. They want that first in the West spot. That's definitely where they aim to be. It's not just, they're not a team that's just make playoffs. They're a first place one team. So I think he'll go both. Like I said, that might be a little bias from me because I do agree with, what Matt's saying about LA Galaxy's, games and who they're playing and the form that they're in. So it probably would be good to have one of their strikers, but Denis Bouanga, that's my guy. So he's my third right now.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add to what you guys have mentioned there. I mean, I think it all makes sense. The one thing that I'm thinking about is how do you get it all to line up with when so many of these players are playing later in the round, and it's almost intriguing to me that if you want to go with a double LA Galaxy midfield, then you could have someone like Suarez on your bench. Alternatively, if Messi didn't start, but you think he might sub in Messi on the bench, which seems ridiculous a thing to do. But say Messi starts, you could have Messi, Cucho, Suarez on your bench. You could see what happens, and that's for Suarez in that game, and then you could still scrub one of your LA players.
You can have 3 forwards on your bench. Do we say that different? What do you mean?
Two of them on your field.
Got it. Sorry.
Gotcha. But if you had two,
no.
If you had two LA Galaxy midfielders, you could preview Suarez's points to see if you'd rather have 2 Miami forwards versus 2 LA Galaxy midfielders. So I think there's some interesting the way it all times out for how you might set up your teams this week. But I think it's going to be tough. I like that Columbus matchup. Columbus to Orlando, Columbus away to Toronto. I think that's good. Maybe Orlando will be tougher than we thought. So maybe it is Columbus that you could scrub and end up going with Messi pick Bouanga if you wanted to load up like that. So I think you need to have one LAFC attacker this week. I think you have to have it. If you don't want to go Bouanga, I think you have to have Bogusz. That Austin game just seems too good, which of course now they'll get shut out. That's what's going to happen. But it just seems too good to not have some attacking presence. And if you don't go with Bouanga, you can have it all in the back end. If you wanted to go with Suarez long Bogusz or Suarez long Bouanga, you could get the same advantage there on the defense. I love years. It's been years now that we switched to having just 3 players from a team, but this is why. This is a decision that you have to make this week when you're looking at that. Where do you want the points? So it's going to be very interesting. Going to chat real quick. I saw someone mention Kuipers in chat. So not on my radar. Chicago has just not been on my radar. Away to Nashville, so betting against Nashville there. I get it. Not a bad bet to make. And then away to Montreal. It's just a lot of away, and I don't like the double away teams. Even though Montreal and Nashville are both teams that concede, so that's just a lot of risk right there for me this round. A lot of the other forwards I think are just too risky. I'm afraid you guys have nailed all the ones that I think should go with. This could be a differentials. Here we go. Could be differentials. All right, let's wrap everything up with our captain picks. Matt, who do you like?
Messi.
Ashley?
Yeah, Mr. Messi for sure.
Okay, so Messi if he starts. So here's the question that we're back to now that Messi's back in the row. If Messi doesn't start, who do you captain?
I'll go first. I think I'm looking at the list here. Probably Cucho or Puig, maybe.
I'd go Puig.
Yeah.
I think that's
too. I think Cucho's a great shout, but I'm mad at him, so Puig.
But also on the table is still captaining Messi.
Sure.
I didn't say don't captain him. I did just say no. I said, who do you captain if Messi doesn't start? Didn't say
I
that.
have never in the history of the 12 years I've been playing fantasy captain someone who wasn't starting. I don't think I could do it, even for him.
I don't think I could either.
There's no one else I'd even consider it for, and let's just say I would consider it, but I don't think I could do it.
I don't think I could either. There'd just be too many. Like, what if he got injured early, in warm-ups or something, or,
Turf Monster gets him. I don't know. Yeah.
Just makes me nervous.
Yeah, like I said,
I'm too conservative for that.
It's an option. It is an option that we can have.
Reed's going to do it. He just said he was going to do it.
I like it.
I said it was an option. No, I
committed.
think it would be Pooch if it wasn't that or Bogusz. And like I said, that Austin game is very tempting as well. So, but if he did
you
not
wouldn't
start,
do you wouldn't do Bouanga? You wouldn't do Bouanga?
I have moved away from feeling like I have to captain forwards that aren't messy at this point. I feel like the midfielders are coming into their own. So,
Okay.
but I get it. I get it. So we'll see. Who am I playing head to head this week? Let's see. Let's double check. But yeah, that's what it is. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for those tips. Very similar comments coming in chat. Let's wrap everything up with our plugs tonight. Matt.
As always, at Soccer Down Here, for the Atlanta fans, the Southern folk, on Twitter, have the podcast. Check them out.
Ashley.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and shout out our lovely, beautiful Discord community. Always great to bounce ideas off of, talk to people. I particularly appreciated someone wasn't mean, but said a not pro Ashley thing, and it was very surprising to me the way that people reacted in a good way, and I appreciate that. We try to always be a positive chat Slack group there and Discord. So shout out to everybody there. And if you're not there, I don't know why you're listening to us. You should be there.
I will, of course, get the regular shout outs. Though a request from Chad asked for a quick shout out to Sebastian Kowalczyk. We all saw his goal on the weekend. Star. I
didn't see it. Sounds great, though.
That's like an inside joke. That's an inside Discord joke between some of the Houston fans.
There we go. Well, you guys get it. You guys get a shout out because I wasn't paying attention, and I was like, sure.
Say, isn't it a bit?
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll have a fun little thing. Come to Discord. That's the plug. Come to Discord. Get in on all the inside jokes, and have the fun things there because we'll mention them sometimes on the show. But yeah, MLSFantasyBoss.com for the articles. We're back on our regular posting schedule this week. We'll get to differentials as well from Team Ranchnator, which have been very fun this year, and of course the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord, the easiest way to get access to everything right there. MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord. It's fun, it's free, it's easy, and you get to hang out with people like Matt Wojo here, who is the number 2 player in the league. Who's number 1 now? I don't know. I didn't check. I just
Priest, I think.
The Priest, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's in there as well. Like I think I was looking through the top 10, and I think at least 8 people in the top 10 of the game are in the Discord. So
really is it
8 or 9. So
Wojo,
Eli.
Yeah, Baby Red Path.
Baby Red Path.
Yeah, it's also
Garth
Butchers, Brian Carroll.
I want to say Cam is Cam still there?
Yeah, no, Cam
Hey
is.
Ricky, Walter.
Hey Ricky, and creeping right outside here. Yep. Tyler at 12 with the Papa Red Path at 14. So
it's good stuff.
Papa Red Path. Skylar's making a run.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Making a late run.
He's got to come back.
Still owes me 11 points, but that's fine.
But yeah, it's so great to see all the success that we have. So come be a part of that with the Discord. So it's a great community, and even though we're getting close to the end of the season, stay engaged. It's still fun. We have a lot of great chat that goes on, and so very, very happy to see that community continue to grow. But there's still a lot of soccer to have. It's going to be a great double game week. Look forward to hearing how you did. And if you go with someone like Mukhtar, who we did not say to go with, feel free to come on the show and let us know how awesome you did. That is part of the game, celebrating your successes. We love it. But in order to get that success, you got to play. And as always, good luck.